Welcome back, everyone, to another exciting edition of The Pit. I am joined by my co-host of the day, Mr. Sports Director over at WALB, Mr. Aaron Mutes, as well as WRDW's Joseph Dorn. Appreciate y'all, fellas, for joining us for another exciting edition.
Ready to go. Big news already going across the state. Really excited to get round two of this little trio going.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, I couldn't be happier to be back.
All right, man. Well, exciting news. Let's just go ahead and jump right in. We're going to start off with the Braves down in spring training. Finally seeing some of those games in the action. First game against the Tampa Bay Rays went pretty well. However, the yesterday game, not so much. Let's talk about it, fellas. Just kind of what have y'all seen so far out of the camp, and what are y'all most looking forward to over the season? Starting off with Aaron.
Honestly, Tony, I think this is just the time you're trying to get acclimated back to being on the ball field. This is something when haven't been playing for months, and if you're an Atlanta Braves player, you really haven't been playing meaningful baseball for pretty much almost a year. So I think they're just trying to get their legs back. I think it's always a good sign you have Acuna on the field dealing with the injuries that he's dealt with over the past few years. It's nice to see him back out there, but I don't think you can tell much from early on in spring training. I think you're just trying to keep guys healthy, let guys get their at-bats, let the arms throw a little bit. Chris Sale looked pretty good when he was in there. I think really it's just about that, just finding a way to get ready for the start of the season, which is happening obviously in about a month and a half.
Joe, how about you?
Yeah, just going off of what you said, Aaron, this is all just about getting acclimated. You know, this team didn't get to play in the postseason last year. It's their first time back on a real field, going somewhat full speed here in the last several months. So just getting out there and running the bases again, getting those arms fresh, as you talked about. Chris Sale did look good, went 2 innings in Sunday's game against the Twins. Even though it wasn't the result we wanted, that Ronald Acuna moment was something that we all got a good chuckle about. That D-ball he hit into left field that we thought could have been a homer, and he did too, ends up just being a single. And some people on Twitter had a little bit of fun with that, saying he wasn't giving full effort. I don't know if I want to see him give full effort right now, coming off of 2 ACL tears in the last 3 years. So yeah, definitely just about getting back on the field and getting ready to play some meaningful baseball here in the next couple months.
Fellas, I couldn't agree with you more. We're seeing a lot of positivity out of the team so far. As you mentioned, you know, early games, you get the kind of first glimpses as to what the team could look like down the stretch. I know right now they are dealing with some pitching injuries. You want to keep those kind of limited now. I feel like going deep into the season or prior to opening day, just because already you lose 2 of your star pitchers and you kind of question what that rest of the rotation looks like. Will it be a Grant Holmes? Will it be a Reynaldo Lopez that has to step up last minute? Will they go out and try to seek another big star pitcher? You know, AA is always kind of iffy on if he'll actually go out and grab somebody so early, or if he'll kind of wait around a little bit prior to the trade deadline. So a lot still in store with this team, but definitely a lot to look forward for this season.
I think one thing to point out also is how's the bullpen going to play? Because I think you look at their lineup, we see it stacked. Look at their 1 through 3 starters. You're like, okay, this is the team that can make a run. But when we get late into those innings, how is the bullpen going to hold up? And we don't want to see games like we saw yesterday where, you know, they give up 5-6 runs in an inning and the game falls apart. I think that's going to be key, is to try to figure out what that bullpen is going to look like specifically as we go through the beginning of March. But I think if the bullpen shows up, this is a team that could be primed for another deep playoff run. At least that's what we're hoping for.
Yeah, that's why they play 30 spring training games, is to just see who you've got right now on the roster that's capable of stepping up in those bullpen positions when the time comes for opening day to start at the end of March. So I was kind of impressed with what we saw on Saturday against Tampa Bay, but yesterday obviously was a little bit of a letdown. Hopefully we got a little bit more to work out and some wrinkles to iron out here in the next couple weeks before we get started.
No doubt about it, gentlemen. Well, the best part here at Gray, amongst all of our stations, we get a front row seat to see with the new Braves on Gray contract we have going on. 15 games that will be streamed here over our generous stations. So we'll get to see first action. No, Boston Red Sox coming up really good. Big game later this week, so looking forward to see what they can do there. As we see a couple other big games there, you have the Yankees, you have Boston, you have Pittsburgh, you have Detroit. A lot of great games still in store, so a lot of excitement. Hopefully we'll get to see these teams take on a couple more W's. We're going to see a lot of rotation guys. I know for us with the Columbus Clinkstones, some of those team guys that we'll hopefully get to see come down to the AA ranks before going up to the big league. So it's going to be an exciting time nonetheless.
Yeah, it's good to see some of those young guys get experience, right? You never know who might pop in spring training and might earn themselves a roster spot. You might find them later in the season when guys are banged up, come up and get some good at-bats or get some good innings. I think that's always the fun part of spring training is you start hearing about some guys you're not really familiar with, and then later in the season, you're like, man, I watched him pitch in spring training. He pitched well. Or I watched him get a couple at-bats, and he hit a couple out. And I think that's the fun part of spring training is being able to see guys and identify guys that might help the club later on in the year.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you, Aaron. We have a guy, Hayden Harris. He played at Grovetown High School here in the CSRA, and now he's with the Braves. He made an appearance in yesterday's spring training game. He went 1 inning, 2 hits, 2 strikeouts. But again, just to get to see some of our local representation, I know y'all have some guys too that have gone through the Braves farm system or have gone and played on the bat. So there have been plenty of guys that we would love to keep an eye on, and Hayden Harris is one we would love to see stick with the Braves after spring training. We got to see him here with the Augusta Green Jackets last year, so great point. There's a lot of names that are starting to try and make a name for themselves out there in spring training. Hopefully they'll start to make a name for themselves when the games start to count.
No doubt about it, gentlemen. Well, hey, we have so much more action coming up. After the break, we're going to talk about UGA baseball and all athletics, as well as Georgia Tech, who are off to a great start. We'll have more coming up real soon. Welcome back in, everybody. We're here with the Pit. I'm joined by Aaron Mukes yet again and Joseph Doran. We talk about big things, fellas. We have to talk about UGA. Now, already they have some exciting things going on. They've hired new personnel in football. Baseball's off to a hot start, as well as men's basketball picking up a big win. What are y'all seeing out of the Dogs right now collectively across the board, and kind of what can we look forward to this season and the year on out? Starting off with you, Joe.
Well, if you want to talk about those new football hires, one of them was offensive analyst who's coming in from Washington County right here in the CSRA, Robert Edwards. He was inducted into the Georgia High School Football Hall of Fame back in October. Waco parted ways with him as head coach back in December, and we never really got an official word on what the reasoning was behind that, but obviously it didn't take him long to land on his feet up in Athens. The former Georgia running back, all-star up there in Athens, now getting to join Kirby Smart's staff ahead of the 2026 season. So good on him. He gets another coaching job and coaching opportunity up there with Georgia. But in terms of basketball, these Dogs men's team are the most kind of bipolar team I think I've seen in college basketball right now. It's either they're winning big on the road or they are dropping the most predictable home game you've ever seen in your life. So hopefully Georgia can make a little bit of a spark here in these last couple games in the regular season as well as in the SEC tournament and get into the tournament. But the women's team does have a great shot. They got that huge win against Vanderbilt at home last week. They followed it up with a loss on the road at Oklahoma, but still a good chance for the Lady Dogs to bounce back and get into the SEC tournament with a very good finish and get into March Madness.
I think it's a good thing that we're even able to talk about them. I can think back to the days where Georgia basketball really wasn't a thing. Nobody was really paying attention to it. I know the SEC landscape has completely changed specifically on the basketball side, but you are right. This is a team that is so up and down. They're scoring 95, 96 points, and then they're scoring 40, 50, 60 against teams. I think that inconsistency is probably going to be what ails them in the end, what keeps them from making a deep tournament run. But on any given night, I think this is kind of across the entire NCAA, is any team can beat any team. And I think the parity around college basketball is starting to look a lot like college football. And I think that's a good thing for the sport, at least for a fan. I know I'm excited about it. You can have Michigan fall to Duke. You can have North Carolina always play Duke tough and beat them. And these teams that are supposedly the best in the country have off nights, and I think that's what makes the sport so special. And then come tournament time, we always know there's a number of upsets that we're always looking forward to that.
I think no doubt about it, Jen. When we talk about it, especially in the SEC, we know this is cream of the crop type of talent, so of course they're going to beat down on one another ever so often. But seeing just the competition levels on across the board, I know recently you had like an Auburn beat a Kentucky, and then some of these top dogs fall, and then some of them counterbalance. It's always just exceptional any given night, really, we like to call it around here. But we also have to talk about that prestigious baseball program across the street. Georgia baseball has in recent years really started making runs. Just recently they were able to beat Sanford 12-4, so that's a big time game there. A lot of excitement around that program. You know, they had guys like Charlie Condon in recent years. Curious to see exactly what these guys do going forward this season.
I actually have a pretty cool tie to Georgia baseball. There's a freshman pitcher by the name of Dylan Wood, who I think he's thrown 1 inning so far this season, 3 strikeouts, by the way. So he struck out the side. My son played with him in high school. Really good pitcher, was originally committed to Arizona, kind of has this funky delivery. I'm really excited to see what he's able to bring to that rotation and that staff. And I know he's learning from a lot of guys that are veterans that are ahead of him. But I think he's going to help them a lot over the next couple of years. A really funky delivery and just gets guys off balance. So I'm excited for that. And then obviously Georgia baseball has grown over the past few years, and we've seen the explosion specifically on the offensive side. And I would like to see that staff get to where I think this team can then make a deep run, maybe to Omaha. So I'm really excited for Georgia baseball. I think this is one of their better teams and probably more underrated team that's been talked about, at least over the past 2 years.
Right. Aaron, I think that's a great point with what you talked about in college basketball with the parity that we're starting to see, not just in the SEC, but across the entire country. Some of these teams starting to play a little bit more to their competition that you wouldn't have expected. But when it comes to Georgia baseball, again, that is a team that can make a deep run into the postseason this year. And when I first started in TV a few years ago, I was over in Jackson, Mississippi. And that 2-year span right before I got there was when Mississippi State and Ole Miss took home back-to-back titles in college baseball. So the SEC has just been rolling in terms of college baseball this year, and why is it not Georgia's time to finally put a stamp on it in Omaha and get there? That's the hardest part, is getting to Omaha first, but to be able to get there and maybe get the job done just to add to another SEC team bringing home the crown.
Now I
can tell you why. I can tell you why. I think Tony's going there. Go ahead, Tony. I'll let you go.
I was about to say, now there's a lot of excitement there, but meanwhile, there's another team in Atlanta that's a top 10 caliber team right now, the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. They are doing some fascinating things as well. Already preseason favorites. They're looking to make another deep run. They may have something to say against Georgia in a couple weeks down the line.
That is going to be probably the team that prevents Georgia from getting to where they want to go. Drew Burris. I mean, this is a team that already has put up 126 runs to start the season. They are electric. And this is a team that can hit. They run. I think the question about them is, are they going to be able to hold on the pitching staff, sustain the staff to take them where they need to go? Because we all know once it gets to postseason baseball, if you have a guy or two that can throw, you could win a national championship. So I think that's going to be the only question around Georgia Tech, because there's not going to be many teams that can keep up with them offensively.
Yeah, let's just talk about James Ramsey being in his first year as a head coach of the Yellow Jackets. 8-0 to start. I know that some of these earlier games and series don't mean nearly as much as when we get into ACC play for Georgia Tech here shortly. But as you just talked about, nothing's been close outside of their second game against Stony Brook, which was a 6-5 victory. Everything else, you go look at the schedule from those other 7 games, absolute blowouts. The Georgia Tech has all the pieces they need to make a deep run into Omaha. And as y'all said, even though it would be cool to see Georgia finally push through and make it there, Georgia Tech may be the team that holds them back from doing so.
Let's just say that clean, old-fashioned hate rivalry across all levels. This definitely, baseball is going to be an interesting time to see. I know we're all looking forward to that big-time matchup. Hopefully it's still a top 15, maybe even top 10 by that time around. But it's going to be a lot of excitement nonetheless.
I think it's good for us either way, right?
Right.
Plenty to talk about.
No doubt about it. Well, gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and finish this block out. Then we have some final thoughts. We have to talk about Team USA. They've been on a run right now with the Olympics, Winter Olympics, all that and more coming up after the next break. All right, fellas, before we get out of here, we got to talk about some other quick mentions. I know, Aaron, big news happening out of the Atlanta Falcons camp. You want to start us off there?
Yeah, today, Kyle Pitts, deservingly so, getting the franchise tag after his performance this year. But I think the question is, would you have given him a long-term deal? And I actually like what Atlanta did here. Kyle Pitts, obviously a stellar first year, had a couple of years where he didn't live up to what he was supposed to be. And then this year was sensational, really elevated that offense and his play. And now he's going to get about $15 million with that franchise tag for 1 year. I think the question is if you're an Atlanta Falcons, does he deserve that long-term contract? I'll just flat out say it. I like the move. Prove it again. I think you have to prove it one more year. what people maybe aren't talking about as much is Drake London missed a lot of time this year where Kyle Pitts really was elevating his play. They do a lot of similar things across the middle, over, shorter routes. So he started to play a little bit of that Drake London role. And I think that made an impact on the numbers he was able to put up. So I want to see him work with Drake London. And I think we get a new scheme in there, or not necessarily a scheme, but a new coach in there, see if they're going to be able to produce at the same level. I like the move for them to keep him and not just let him walk, but I think he does have to prove it one more year before I'd give him that big payday.
What about you, Joe? What's your thoughts?
Talking about Kyle Pitts with me is like opening up Pandora's box, because right now, I'll say off the bat, I do like the move. I will agree with you there, Aaron. I don't think the tight end free agency market this year in the NFL is the most attractive for Atlanta. And you talk about the absence of Drake London and how Pitts was able to shine in his absence in those few games last year. But when you look at Kyle Pitts' stats, one of the funniest things to me is he had over 1,000 yards in his rookie season, 1 touchdown. Then you get to year 5 this past year. He went up in touchdowns every year, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So maybe we're going to get a 6 touchdown season out of Kyle Pitts, and by year 20, he'll be a Hall of Famer, no doubt. But Kyle Pitts getting franchise tagged, I do think is a very good move by the Falcons. I do expect them to most likely sign him to a long-term deal if he keeps up the production he had towards the latter part of this past season, especially that Tampa Bay game where he had 3 touchdowns on the road. But we got to get to the playoffs first, boys. This is something I've been waiting for the last 8 years now, and I really just want to see the Falcons play some meaningful football in January.
I can't agree with y'all more. I think there's a lot of questions, especially with Kyle Pitts. He's always been a trade piece in the back of my mind. I'm curious to see what Stefanski as well as Ian Cunningham do with him together. And also just knowing probably with Kirk Cousins getting rid of them, that contract opens up a lot of space. Hopefully he can give more other players this type of money. But we have to talk about Winter Olympics, fellas. I know NBC is going on over there, but we have to talk about just what Team USA was able to do on the hockey. It's been, 46 years, 48 years since Team USA, the men's division, was able to bring home a gold medal. But we also have to shout out the women, just both overtime wins. What did y'all like about it? Let's talk about it.
Well, I'll say I was watching the game. This is the first time NHL hockey players have ever won, which is really cool. I think having the guys, the professional level playing is a good thing. It was really exciting. I'm not sure how I feel about the 3-on-3 and extra time, the overtime period, because Canada dominated that game. I don't know if you're watching it. They dominated the game. Obviously, Hellebuck had a masterful performance, maybe the best Olympic goalie performance ever. But Canada really did dominate that game. And then 3-on-3, you get open ice, and obviously the USA wins. Great for us, but it was exciting, which is what it's supposed to be at the Olympics. And I don't think you could ask for a better finish to a Winter Olympics that doesn't get the same love and hype as the Summer Olympics. I thought it was really cool.
Never apologize for following the rules. If it's 3-on-3 hockey, that's what it is. Canada had just as much turn to score as we did. I am so happy that we ended up coming out on the victory side of things. But you can even go back to regulation time when Canada had the 5-on-3 against the U.S. and they didn't score. USA killed every power play Canada had in the gold medal game, and it was by far some of the best defense I've ever seen in a hockey game in my entire life. So to get to the 3-on-3, I know it's not the hockey favorites' favorite thing to see when it comes to winning a gold medal game, but those are the rules. We won by them, and we are gold medal champions for the first time in 46 years. So
did you see the reactions of the Canadians when they were getting their silver medal? They're just like, it's the only. It's crazy because
they were so sour.
It's the only event. Like, think about the events. It's the only event where you're not excited to get silver. Most people, like, they get a silver, they're excited, they're all happy. They were just like, yeah, we're first loser. We're second best.
Hey, I think yesterday may have been a top 10 day on Twitter I've ever spent in my life. Just seeing United States fans going after Canadian fans saying if they had Sidney Crosby on the ice, things would have been different. Guess what? It doesn't matter. We are taking the gold back.
I mean, gosh, how much more do you need? You already got Connor McDavid. Like, what else do you need?
Exactly. You got all the guys you possibly needed on the ice in that 3-on-3, and you still couldn't get it done, and you got beat by a very young player in Jack Hughes.
The Hughes brothers, exceptional, gentlemen. No doubt about it. Team USA all the way. It's been another exciting edition of the Pit Fella. Appreciate y'all for joining us yet again for another edition. Let's turn around and do this time next week. How about that?
Yes, sir. We'll be here.
Sounds good. We'll see you next Monday.
All right. And just like that, another one in the books. Y'all have a good one.